Welcome, seekers of the soul, to a journey into the hidden dimensions of human consciousness. Today, we unravel a profound mystery, a quiet power that moves through our world, often unnoticed, yet profoundly influential. We speak of women who embody a rare form of spiritual intelligence, a wisdom that transcends the superficial, reaching into the very core of existence. Carl Jung, the visionary depth psychologist, recognized this unique capacity. He observed that certain women possess what he termed a superior feeling function, an intuitive lens through which they perceive not just emotions, but the energetic blueprints of souls, the symbolic language of the unconscious, and the subtle currents that shape our reality. These are not women who merely perform spirituality. They are living vessels of its deepest truths. What you are about to discover are 6 subtle powers, 6 unseen marks that distinguish these spiritually intelligent women. These traits operate in the quiet spaces, often misunderstood by a world that prioritizes the quantifiable over the mystical. Yet, for those who bear them, these traits are both a gift and a sacred calling, demanding they walk between worlds while remaining profoundly grounded in this one. If these insights resonate within you, awakening a flicker of recognition, consider pressing the like button, sharing this message, and subscribing to Shadow Pulse for more journeys into the depths of the psyche.
The first unseen power reveals itself in their uncanny ability to read energies that others cannot perceive. When she enters a room, something shifts. The atmosphere changes, not because of what she does or says, but because of what she emanates. Jung's concept of the superior feeling function, when fully developed, operates like a finely tuned instrument. It detects the subtle vibrations of authenticity and deception, of pain and joy radiating from every human encounter. These women are living barometers of the human condition. They sense the unspoken tensions between couples at a dinner party, feel the repressed grief of a cheerful neighbor, and detect the hidden agenda behind a charming facade. This isn't paranoia or projection. It's pattern recognition operating at frequencies most people cannot access. Their nervous systems have been calibrated, often through years of hypervigilance, trauma, or a simple genetic inheritance, to pick up signals that others miss entirely. The ancestral component here cannot be ignored. These women often carry the energetic legacy of grandmothers and great-grandmothers who developed this radar out of necessity. Women who had to read the emotional climate of their households for survival, who learned to detect danger in a husband's footstep or opportunity in a neighbor's glance. This inherited wisdom flows through bloodlines like a river of knowing, surfacing in daughters who find themselves overwhelmed in crowds, exhausted after social gatherings, or strangely certain about people they've just met. Yet this gift comes wrapped in thorns. To see clearly is to see what others prefer to keep hidden. To feel authentically is to recognize performance and pretense everywhere. These women often find themselves isolated, not by choice, but by the sheer intensity of their perceptual accuracy. They become mirrors that reflect back truths people aren't ready to face. Oracles speaking languages that sound like judgment to those still sleeping in their illusions. Have you ever walked into a space and immediately known something was wrong, even though everyone seemed perfectly fine? Have you ever felt an instant aversion to someone that later proved justified, though you couldn't explain your initial reaction? This is a glimpse into the realm of energetic literacy, a skill that transforms these women into unwitting guardians of emotional truth.
The second power emerges through their intimate relationship with what Jung called the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of archetypal patterns and universal symbols that shapes human experience across cultures and centuries. While most people catch occasional glimpses of this deeper reality through dreams or moments of inspiration, spiritually intelligent women maintain open channels to this wellspring of wisdom. They dream in symbols that later manifest in waking life, experience synchronicities with a frequency that defies statistical probability, and receive guidance through intuitive flashes that prove remarkably accurate. Jung observed that certain individuals possess a more permeable ego boundary, allowing them to access collective wisdom without losing their individual identity. These women embody this rare capacity. They serve as translators between the symbolic realm and practical reality, taking the abstract language of the unconscious and rendering it into actionable insight. A dream about water becomes guidance about emotional healing. A chance encounter with a specific animal becomes a message about personal power. A recurring number pattern becomes confirmation of being on the right path. This connection to the collective unconscious amplifies their experience of meaningful coincidences. While others dismiss such events as random chance, these women recognize them as communications from the deeper intelligence that orchestrates reality behind the scenes. They learn to trust these synchronistic guideposts, allowing them to navigate life with a sense of flow and timing that appears magical to observers but feels perfectly natural to them. They understand that the universe speaks in whispers and symbols, and they've developed the inner ears to listen. This phenomenon extends beyond personal guidance into collective service. These women often find themselves in the right place at the right time to offer exactly what someone needs, not through planning, but through following invisible currents of meaning. They become bridges between the material and spiritual dimensions, translating universal wisdom into human understanding through their presence, their words, and their very being. Their lives become stories of mythic proportions, filled with encounters that feel scripted by some benevolent cosmic intelligence.
This leads naturally to their third characteristic, one that often puzzles those around them. These spiritually intelligent women cultivate what Jung called sacred solitude. They choose isolation not from misanthropy, but from wisdom. They understand something that extroverted cultures struggle to accept, that the deepest transformations happen in silence, away from the opinions and energies of others. Their solitude isn't loneliness, it's laboratory work for the soul. Jung's concept of individuation requires periods of withdrawal from collective influences to discover one's authentic self. These women instinctively honor this process, creating space for their inner voice to emerge above the noise of social expectations. They distinguish between solitude that heals and isolation that wounds, choosing the former as a conscious practice rather than accepting the latter as a punishment. When they withdraw, They're not running from life. They're diving deeper into it. The sacred nature of their solitude becomes apparent in how they use this time. Rather than numbing themselves with distractions, they engage in practices that enhance their connection to inner wisdom. They journal, meditate, create, or simply sit in silence, allowing the sediment of daily experience to settle so that clarity can emerge. These periods of withdrawal become times of intense creativity and spiritual communication, when insights download and perspectives shift in ways that transform their entire understanding of existence. Yet this natural rhythm of withdrawal and engagement often confuses family members and friends, who interpret their need for space as rejection or depression. These women must learn to honor their energetic cycles without guilt, understanding that their depth requires regular returns to the inner well. They discover that attempting to maintain constant social connection depletes their spiritual resources and diminishes their ability to serve others authentically. Their solitude becomes an act of self-preservation that ultimately benefits everyone in their orbit.
The fourth power reveals perhaps the most profound aspect of their spiritual intelligence: their capacity to transform personal suffering into universal wisdom through what Jung called the transcendent function. These women don't simply endure pain, they alchemize it. They descend voluntarily into their own underworld, facing the demons that others spend lifetimes avoiding, and emerge carrying treasures that can only be found in the depths of personal hell. This process mirrors the ancient archetype of the wounded healer, the one who gains the power to heal others precisely through intimate knowledge of suffering. Jung recognized this pattern in many of his patients, particularly women who had endured significant trauma or loss. Rather than remaining victims of their circumstances, they transformed their wounds into sources of compassion and insight that could serve the collective healing process. Their pain became their qualification, their suffering, their certification as guides for others walking similar paths. The transcendent function operates by holding opposites in tension until a third possibility emerges. These women learn to embrace both their light and shadow, their joy and grief, their strength and vulnerability. Instead of choosing sides in the war between opposing forces within themselves, they become the sacred marriage of these opposites, giving birth to a new level of consciousness that transcends the original conflict. Their integrated wholeness becomes a beacon for others still struggling with inner fragmentation. This alchemical process requires tremendous courage and commitment to truth over comfort. These women must be willing to feel everything fully, to resist the temptation to spiritual bypass their pain through premature forgiveness or positive thinking. They learn that healing isn't the absence of wounds, but the transformation of wounds into wisdom. Their scars become sacred sites, pilgrimage destinations for their own souls, and eventually for others seeking similar transformation. The responsibility that comes with this wisdom cannot be understated. Once you've transformed lead into gold, once you've walked through fire and emerged refined rather than destroyed, you become accountable to the collective healing process. These women often find themselves drawn to serve as counselors, teachers, artists, or healers, using their transmuted pain as medicine for a wounded world.
The fifth hallmark of these women is not something you hear in their words, but something you feel in their very presence. Jung described it as therapeutic presence, a way of communicating that relies less on speech and more on the vibration of being itself. For them, silence is never empty.
It is eloquence distilled. Their quietude can heal in ways 100 sermons cannot. Often, the greatest gift they give another person is not advice or solution, but the willingness to sit beside them, to witness their reality without judgment, without interference, without trying to fix what is unfolding. This form of communication bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the soul. When such a woman enters a space marked by suffering, her presence alone whispers, "It is possible to endure. It is possible to emerge from darkness with light still intact." She does not need to retell her struggles or dress them in inspirational slogans. Her existence, grounded, whole, and unbroken, is already the living testimony that transformation is real. Because they know the power of language, they never use it carelessly. For them, words are instruments, not noise. Each syllable is weighted with intention, chosen for clarity rather than excess. They understand that speech can create or destroy, mend or wound. Where many scatter words loosely, they speak sparingly, knowing that in restraint lies resonance. Their silence carries fullness and unspoken compassion, a depth that holds more meaning than chatter ever could. This discipline with expression extends into the way they manage their energy. They have learned, often through trial and error, that sensitivity requires stewardship. Not every room deserves their full openness. Not every conversation merits their deepest attention. By honoring these natural boundaries, they are able to give generously without depleting themselves. Like seasoned musicians, they know when to let sound fill the air and when to rest into silence. It is no wonder that people frequently report feeling uplifted after even brief contact with them. This is not a coincidence. They are, in essence, human tuning forks, resonating at higher frequencies and drawing others into alignment through unconscious attunement. Without a single word, they remind others of their innate capacity for balance, for clarity, for peace. The sixth and final power reveals itself not in what they do, but in what life brings to them. These women seem to live in an atmosphere where meaning gathers, where coincidence turns sacred, where synchronicity is the rule rather than the exception. They do not chase mystical encounters, they magnetize them. Their consciousness operates like a beacon, calling forth experiences, people, and opportunities that further their own evolution and the awakening of those around them. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity attraction, the clustering of meaningful coincidences that cannot be explained by chance alone, yet carry profound significance. Where others search frantically for signs, these women simply live in alignment, and the signs come. Their lives read like sacred texts, filled with chapters written by an unseen intelligence that arranges moments with precision and purpose. This magnetism functions through what Jung identified as autonomous complexes. In most people, these inner patterns act unconsciously, projecting chaos and distortion into relationships. But in women of spiritual intelligence, the same mechanisms become refined. Their inner life transforms into an antenna, tuned to the frequencies of truth and purpose. And yet, such a gift requires careful discernment. Not everything that sparkles is divine guidance. Not every coincidence is destiny. They must learn to separate genuine direction from ego-driven fantasy, sacred timing from personal impatience. Without this clarity, their gift could easily slip into illusion. With it, they become master navigators, steering through the ocean of life with trust and discernment. Their presence in any circle inevitably stirs change. They do not intend to provoke transformation, yet transformation happens. By simply being, they awaken questions others did not know they carried. Their authenticity becomes a mirror that compels others to examine their masks. Their light casts shadows others must confront. This catalytic force flows not from intention, but from resonance.